Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Newcastle United Daily Pod. This is as fresh as you're going to get it. This has been recorded approximately 1 hour after the Newcastle Forest game ended. So this is what you call pure, raw, emotional happiness, let's call it. So there's going to be zero negativity at all because there's absolutely nothing to be negative about. We're not even going to be negative about the fact that even they got one goal. So what?
No.
It was a blip. These things happen. But before we do get into it, I'll introduce my lovely peoples that I am with today. I am joined initially by my girl. It is Nic.
Howdy, hello. I am so excited to talk about the game.
I know, I do love a post-match pod, especially after a win. And my other, well, what was I going to call you there? So many things, Michael, but I wasn't even going to be negative, but there we go. It's Michael.
Oh. It's me! Yeah.
Because, Michael, I couldn't decide whether to go for that sparkly thing that you did last time, which, I tell you what, still had me giggling as hell afterwards, especially when I was looking back at some of the clips, man. So, yeah, it's our sparkle-tastic, Michael.
There we go. Absolutely fantastic.
Love it.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Michael's full of positivity today, so you know things are going well. Isn't that right, Michael?
Well, that's what you think.
no.
Michael, you're getting a beat down. I've told you this is half an hour of pure positivity, all right? But yeah, like I say, yeah, all right, we're over the moon about it, but there's so much we can say about that game. I think the main thing we can say is we absolutely dominated that game. So yeah, all right, they scored. And it was in that sense against the run of play, wasn't it? It was from a set piece. We messed up a bit. They got it. They capitalised. Fair play to them is all I'm going to say on that one. So in a way, it's still positive because fair play to them. But we kept going, and that's the main thing. We kept pushing. We kept doing exactly what we'd been doing from the get-go in terms of the possession, which I'm not going to lie, by the way. I have called out in the past, and sometimes I've said that we're better when we're off the ball, and then we, more effective and just kind of hit them on the counter or whatever, but oh man, we were just unreal today. We really were. We'll obviously, I think as the pod goes on, we'll discuss the actual goals and we'll discuss individual players. But first of all, you guys, how are you just feeling in general? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, but go on, hit me with some kind of happiness here. Nic, go on, then I'll let you go first.
So, I think that was probably the most satisfying win of the season so far. Yes, I loved the Arsenal win, but for me, that game that we've just played, I thought was really satisfying. I thought we looked like we were back to the Newcastle that we experienced in the 22-23 season. I feel like we just look like we've clicked all of a sudden again. And it's like, oh wait, Newcastle are back. Obviously that's 4-4 now for Alexander Isak, isn't it? So that's also good to see. And I know I've spoken about before, when we go 1-0 down, we sit back, but that just did not happen today whatsoever. We just kept going until finally we were rewarded. And that's really nice to see from a Newcastle side. I think it's important. Obviously, we've always said we think it's important to score early on and it gets the momentum going. But I just think the way we came back straight away was just 10 out of 10. We gelled, we looked good. I've not got really a bad word to say about anything other than Yates should have been off. That's the only thing I'm going to say.
We'll talk about him a bit later, as little as possible again, because it's just a massive negative. He is a massive negative, isn't he, really?
Yeah.
So yeah, bang on description really of today, isn't it, Nic? So Michael, go on, hit us with that positivity. I know you're absolutely dying to get out.
I was actually going to say, I think that was the most complete performance Newcastle have given this season, from the first man to, from the goalkeeper down to the striker. I think everyone was pretty fantastic. I thought first half we lacked a little bit of penetration, but the defence was 10 times better than I expected it to be beforehand. I think if anyone listened to the crossover podcast, I said, look, we're really going to struggle with that pace.
Yeah.
We didn't struggle at all. Lewis Hall, Remento, fantastic as the fullbacks. Fabian Schär and Dan Burn looked like they were in their youth once again, like able to get around the pitch absolutely fantastically. And I think we saw today as well why Sean Longstaff plays, because I thought he was absolutely fantastic. But there's one player you've got to shout out, and I know we'll probably get to that, but how good is our beautiful Brazilian Jolin?
He's unbelievable, isn't he? I mean, we all know he's unbelievable, but so happy that he got his goal. Like, we all love him anyway, but he deserves it, doesn't he? Because he's been brilliant, especially in the last few games. He's just got better and better, and he's just been his proper, again, top form self, hasn't he? So to see him score and to see him celebrate, man, because you can see the passion. I love seeing that. I want players to do that. Like, just go wild, man. You've just scored a goal. I hate any kind of muted type of celebration, by the way. Please go wild on any given opportunity, because I think I would absolutely go berserk in ways that I probably shouldn't on a pitch if I scored a goal. Like, so yeah, I love seeing that from players. But yeah, you're right. Like, Jolin, again, absolutely bossed that midfield as such, as people say. But it's hard to pick anyone that didn't do anything well. Even at times, I'm not going to say, because I think Gordon didn't have his best game, is all I'm going to leave it at, because I'm not going to say he had a bad game, because again, pure positivity here, people. But we've got to be honest, he didn't have his greatest game. It's as simple as that. No. And then, unfortunately, he's pulled his groin, which obviously we do hope is a very minor thing. But then I don't want to see him going off to England either. Let him have that rest. But Bonds, look what Bonds did when he come on. I think we're just fast forwarding through the match here, so it's tough. Sorry. I'm just like, look at that. This is probably the problem, maybe, of doing an immediate pod after a match, perhaps.
Yeah, the wrong
emotions.
But yeah, like, again, I think, I'll tell you what then, have a little bit of structure to it, because I did say we're going to wing this pod. We'll do a little bit of structure. Before the first sponsor, I think we'll maybe just talk about the defence. And Michael, you're absolutely bang on about Cher and Byrne. Like, they're in their latter years of their career now. Yet, look at the pair of them today. Like, it's gutted that Byrne's now not available for the next game, of course. But, you know, we've got options as well, because we had discussed that going after the Chelsea Cup game, didn't we? So, not too scared. Just gutted for him a bit, really. But it was a conversation I had with my dad on text, that because he texted going, I think Byrne needs to be subbed before he gets sent off. Because Byrne was just having one too many run-ins, wasn't he, today?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you guys got any more thoughts on the defence, apart from the fact that, again, rock solid, really, weren't they?
I just think, like, yes, okay, Fabian Schär and Dan Byrne just look, again, like Michael touched on, just in their prime and their youth. I know Dan Byrne gets a lot of stick from the Newcastle fan base. I know he does, and there is times where he obviously makes mistakes. But for the last maybe 4, 5, 6 games, you can't critique him at all. He's not put a foot wrong, in my eyes, anyway. And I mean, Fab Schär, he's just the best, isn't he? He can control a game from the back. He can control a game. And I think when he has a good game, Dan Byrne has a good game, and then the other two seem to have a good game. But I am just going to point out the other two, Tino, Lewis, again. What more can we say about those two players that we haven't already said? I just think, particularly Lewis Hall, I think I said at the beginning of the year, I think this season's going to be sort of pivotal in his career. I just think he's having an unbelievable season. The way he just controls that left-hand side, that back four, I think, are going a little bit unnoticed. Not from our side. I think in pundits in general are not talking about our back four enough. I think they're doing an unbelievable job.
Yeah,
I'd agree.
Yeah.
100%.
Are we pretty much done on the defence, or has anyone got anything else to say, Michael?
I think just one thing to add as well is I think Dan Byrne was the only one on our side to collect a yellow card. And considering that came straight after the Yates elbow on Remento, so we shouldn't have been in that position in the first place.
Yeah.
When you consider Gibbs, White, Alanga, Hudson, Adoy, the attacking intent of their, let's say, attacking midfield three, the fact that we only picked up that one yellow card, and we realistically shouldn't anyways, I know it was a foul, but there's a foul beforehand. I think that just shows as well the midfield gave them a lot of help. And to be honest, we often criticise the midfield for that. They're not really helping out the defence enough. Then they're not helping out the attack enough. But I think the combination today and the combination against Arsenal, I feel like we've finally got it right. And that's really harsh because Tonali got an assist when he came on. I thought he looks brilliant, the Italian maestro, when he comes on. But that midfield three of Longstaff, Guimaraes and Willock as well has helped out that defence so much, and we look so much of a better team. So
100%.
We do.
bring on West Ham.
Absolutely. Give our boys a well-deserved rest, or a little bit of cheeky international duty, obviously, for some. But we're not fearing any upcoming games, that's for sure. And it's a great feeling to have, isn't it?
Absolutely.
On that note, we'll move on from the defence, but we will cut to Nic, please, for our first sponsor.
Lovely, thank you. Here at Global Sports Podcast Network, we spend a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It is super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you are ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Like a pro.
Like a
Thank
pro.
you very much, my dear.
No problem.
Brilliant. Cool. On to the midfield. And where do we start?
Let's go.
I think we all predicted pretty much that it was going to be an unchanged side. We had discussed potentially and bringing Tonali back in, but I think we all agreed and we all know how, especially when it was working, going back to that 22-23 season as well. When it was working, he pretty much did not change. And it was weird because even then, when it was working, people would still say, well, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. So it just shows
100%.
that we can all have our opinions, but he's the boss for a reason.
You know.
And he was bang on again. Longstaff, it would have been absolutely criminal to drop him because that in reality probably would have been the only one. Well, no, he could have dropped Willock for him, I suppose, because again, Bruno's not getting dropped for Tonali, is it? So,
No.
But I'm so glad to see everyone kind of pulling in the same direction and just having an insane game again. I'll be honest, I did read, as always, a bit of negativity on social media when the team was announced and people were seeing Longstaff in. It was on the main Newcastle United page. So I haven't followed most of the so-called fan pages. So on the main Newcastle one, it was just so many people saying Tonali should have been brought in. I mean, don't get us wrong, there was loads of people supporting Longstaff as well. But then they tried to call those people out. So you saw the usual arguments. But it was ridiculous. Like, just purely because he's supposedly a better player than Longstaff? It's absolutely not how it works. Longstaff does not deserve to be dropped at all. I didn't think it was going to happen, but I stuck a few quid on Longstaff to score because I was desperate to see him. I think I put it in the group chat, didn't it? Like a bit of a get stuffed type of goal. Like I would have loved that. I would have almost loved him to score, right? And just went up to the crowd and be like that or something. Fist in the air, like screw you, man, type of thing. It didn't happen. However, I must point out that on my other bet of 3-1, which we'll all know is Ian's lovely prediction, and you did, Nic. We all know. Don't worry.
Yes, I did. Yep, thank you.
And my lovely Nicole predicts 3-1 every single time, and it's the first time I've ever won any money on it in all the few years I've been doing it now of 3-1. It's the first time I've actually done it. So yeah, so at least I won some cash as well, man. Happy days. To the point where I'm not going to lie, like in the last few minutes, I was like, nah, don't score another fourth. Please don't score fourth. I want some money at this point. I want the glory of the win and I want the money. So when Marcus came close near the end, I wasn't that sad, I'm not going to lie, because Marcus was like, oh no, and I was like, nah, it's all right, man. I won some cash.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
First is, I think Ian's still on holiday as well, so the chances are the first 3-1 we've seen in a long time, he wouldn't have been able to put on. So the poor man has been sticking with it for so long. Ian, I hope you've got it, buddy. I hope you've got it. Yeah,
I should have put it on.
You can't access them in different countries unless he's got one that's sort of.
We could have put it on for him if we'd known. Oh,
Damn.
We should have done that.
Well, you did.
Or maybe that's the key. Ian should stop betting on it. I don't know. We'll see.
Sorry, Ian.
I know, bless him, man. Look, I hope you just got to watch the game, if I'm honest.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah,
he will have.
It's usually easier to watch it abroad, ironically. Don't be anywhere near your own stadium and dare to watch it, but never mind. We were on Sky today. So that's fine. Yeah. Any guys, if you've got anything to put in, because like I say, I could ramble on about our midfield forever because they're just immense, aren't they?
Yeah, I think the main thing today is just, it's the proof sort of in the pudding that, Howe knows what he's talking about. We need to sort of, and I've been critical of Howe in the past, completely being honest, But I think at the same time, what I'd said on a previous podcast is let's see how it is in a month. And Nottingham Forest and Arsenal, no one expected us to win. That change has been made to that midfield. And to be honest, I think the midfield's the reason we've won both of those games. But the comparison I'd like to make, and I think it is the reason that a lot of people keep saying, start Tonali, don't start Longstaff. It's like a dating site. If you see a hunky Italian stallion, you're swiping one way. And it ain't I don't know which way is for no, but it ain't the way that says no.
No. It's not always the way.
Yeah, and if you see it like just not a boring British man, because I don't want to be harsh on Longstaff, but you standard everyday person, you're less likely to say yes. So, but just remember, sometimes normal is absolutely fine. You don't need the hunky Italian stallion, even though sometimes it is nice.
They end up letting you down. They end up letting you down, man.
Yeah.
Hey.
Although this is 100% the most anyone is going to question my sexuality ever after that. So I think my wife's going to go look at it, listen to the pod and go, "Really, Michael? Really?" People know what I'm saying.
You analyse that too much, Michael.
People are going to be looking into that, Michael.
Yeah, it's fine.
I slightly disagree on this game. Whilst I think the whole midfield had a cracking game, I'm going to be honest. And Sean Longstaff did have a good game. I'm not being negative towards him at all. However, I think the game was changed by Tonali when he came on. I do think he changed the game when he came on. And that's just my opinion and my take on the game. I'm not going to... I don't disagree the fact that the midfield as a collective, subs and, people that started the game, I thought they all had a cracking game. But I do 100% think that Tonali changed the game when he came on. And I thought that was an important sub that Eddie Howe made. And, we've all discussed before, like, he's going to have to find a way to make Tonali, Jolin and Bruno all play together at the same time, yeah, okay, whilst that is true, I think he does need to find a way to make that three work. I'm also not mad at the fact of how it's working right now, because Sean Longstaff is having, again, a cracking season and is very key to us, I think. But when Tonali comes on, he changes the game in his own way. And I think today he was very key to changing that game. I thought he was great. I do love Tonali, though. I think I've never got a really bad word to say about him, to be honest. So, that's the only thing I will say. I do think he did change the game when he come on, but as a collective, the whole midfield had a great game.
Yeah. I know. I'm with you, really, because to me, I think, again, me and my dad were texting each other. He was like a perfectly timed sub in that sense. Because we said it's not that Willock needed to come off. He wasn't playing badly.
Yeah.
However, again, it was just the right thing at the right time. So, again, fair play to Eddie. Because, again, yes, all right, he's made mistakes in the past because he is only human. I know we worship him like a god, but he is human, obviously, and does make little mistakes. But in terms of anything he did today, he didn't make any bad decisions at all. I appreciate the Bonds for Gordon thing was obviously forced, but Bonds was already warming up and ready to come on. So I'm wondering whether he was already going to come on for Gordon. It just so happened he tweaked his groin, unfortunately, right before that was about to happen. We'll not know, but you've got to guess that was going to be the sub.
I think you're probably right with
you. Yeah. But in terms of timing of subs and then impact of subs as a result of that, was just absolutely bang on. And it's just going back to everyone just working well when they need to work well for each other, isn't it? So
100%.
Yeah. So that was cool. I'm happy with that, Michael.
I think the fact that no one came on until Osula in the 97th or something like that probably tells us that it was maybe the sub that wasn't meant to. Yeah, it was the sub that was meant to be changed. Eddie was 30 seconds away from getting it spot on.
Yeah,
so
100%.
It's just a bit of bad luck on our side, but I'm sure Gordon will be fine. Maybe we just didn't want him playing for England. And who does?
Strategic.
Maybe. Very strategic.
I mean, I'm happy with that.
The same thing happened to Trent yesterday, if anyone's noticed.
Yeah, exactly.
Did it? Suspicious.
Suspicious. They're all up to no good.
No.
No, I'm just
joking. A weird one, isn't it? Like, selfishly, we don't want them to go on international duty. for fear of them getting injured. It's purely down to that. Obviously, personal reasons.
100%.
I understand why they all want to play for England, and it should be that way, by the way, because I actually hate it when you see players not wanting to play for their country and being downright disrespectful towards it. Because I think, right, well, you should never play for them then, because you should not have that attitude towards playing for your country. However, obviously, we're just being purely selfish because we are very much Newcastle over England, so that's all that is. Or over any country, obviously, and on international duty, not just England. But yeah, we'll finish that part there. And Michael, if you can give us the next ad, and then we can roll nicely into our goals and attacking and just more joy.
Yay.
Absolutely. This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football, and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network, every club, every day.
I love it, Michael. And I'm not going to lie, like when you were reading that there, I was thinking, if we ever have to pre-record the adverts, all jokes aside, because we all call each other professional, but you are. We're just proud of ourselves if we do it and don't trip up and say something wrong.
He's making us blush. I've gone red.
Except Michael, was it me and you? It is you are. You're beaming now. Bless you.
It is appreciated.
I think on the last pod, was it me and you who both messed up the adverts, though? Was it?
Yeah.
No, it was me. I did as well the other week.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what I mean. We're all screwed up. It's not good. But like Kev said, I think it was the power of editing, isn't it? So
yeah. When I was with the Forest team on Wednesday doing the recording, they put one of the pre-recorded ones on and they were like, that's not us. What? So I think it's a good idea that we do. I don't want to be doing an advert for the Daily Brighton podcast. I'm only Newcastle. This is the only place you get this advertising voice.
Oh, by the way, Michael. You are ours, by the way, yeah. When I said pre-recorded, I meant for us. I didn't mean for the whole of GSPN. No, you don't get that. Anyway, after a good 3-minute conversation on GSPN.
Rein it back in.
I know, right?
Getting that money's worth.
Job. We love the company that we were working for, isn't it? But no, let's talk about the goals, man. I'll be honest, look, I'm going to be nice. And I did this in the last pod. I gave Forest credit and I gave them kind of, what they deserved leading into this game. And I'll give them what they deserve leading out of it, because the only thing they deserve was that goal. They took it very well. Fair play to them. Yeah. Isak stepped out of position, unfortunately, which gave them that opening, but they took it. Mm-hmm. So fair play to them, right? I'm not absolutely going to say anything against them. Well done. That's all you did. So now let's talk about us again. So I love a bit of bias. The goals. I mean, Isak's was great.
Yep.
Big Joe's was bloody beautiful. I'm allowed to say that, Anna. Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, 100%.
And then Bonds, I'll be honest, it was one of those that me and Marcus both shouted, screamed, whatever you want to call it, yes. But then we kind of paused for a second because it was almost that thing of, did that go in or did it hit the side of the net? Because what I did notice is Harvey didn't do his celebration, his arrow thing. And I'm like, why is he not doing that? So always for a split second, don't you? And I think this is boiled down to the whole VAR and everything else about the modern game that makes you think twice on every single thing that happens now. So I didn't fully celebrate the third one like I celebrated the first two. But all very well taken in their own right, weren't they?
Yeah.
I think I was probably most happiest for Big Joe just because I think he just absolutely deserved that goal. Just for all the hard work that he's been putting in recently.
Yeah.
It's weird saying that because it sounds like you're talking about a bloody student at school or something. We've been doing really well the last few weeks, so I'm going to give them the Star of the Week award.
Big Jolin's great at DT. Maths, so needs to go to work.
He does, yes. We'll send him a well done little reward on Instagram, shall we? I'm sure he'll be waiting for it. But yeah, again, what have we been screaming out for recently? Forward to actually finish something. And in the first half, it looked like it was going to be one of those games where we were going to control it all, have the chances, and again, nothing happened.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that the second half was just everything we deserved out of the game. It is, and it's not. You don't always get what you deserve out of the game because it is a game that can go in any which direction, can't it, at any time. But we got our just dessert, so to speak. But Michael, I'll come to you because again, I'll just rabbit on at this point. Michael, talk to me about the goals.
Yeah, so I mean, we've mentioned last week on the podcast that Newcastle hadn't scored a goal from a set piece yet this season. Does that Isak one count? Because
surely.
Yeah.
it kind of drops to him and it kind of worked. But if it
Yeah.
takes us off bottom of the table for that, I'll take it.
Take it.
Hopefully that's something going forward. You know, West Ham, not great at defending set pieces. Dan Burn gets in on the act. Fabian Schär gets in on the act. Tino Livramento, back post. I've never seen him head a ball towards goal in my life, but this is going to be the first time.
This is the one.
So hopefully hopefully we're better, do a little bit better from set pieces. You know, they are a big talking point for us at the moment. But I mean, as well, the second goal, that's probably the most technical goal I've seen Jolin score. Because usually he looks down, looks at the ball, envisions something that he hates, and just rifles it. Like the one against Chelsea when we beat them 4-1, it's a tap-in, but he nearly breaks the net. And that's the typical Joelinton goal. So seeing him on the edge of the box, just curling it into the corner, I thought it was Bruno.
Yeah.
But Joelinton, I was not familiar with your game. Absolutely beautiful. And, well, I'll let Nick talk about the third from Harvey because I don't want to talk too long.
Love it.
I also just want to touch on Forest just quickly because I feel like, I know we're the Newcastle podcast, but I think it's a case of, I don't think Forest played bad at all. I think we just played a lot better.
Brilliantly. Yeah.
It's not a case. I mean, yeah, like you say, they deserve their goal. You know, Isak stepped out of position and all this, and they took their chance. The first two goals. I mean, Isak. Yeah, I think that definitely counts as a set piece. And was obviously we needed the goal, so that was cool. And then the Jolin goal. We've come a long way with that man, haven't we? We've come a long way. It's been a work in progress, but I think we're there because he did strike that ball unbelievable. But we're there. The third goal, I didn't even realize the third goal had gone in. I was sat looking at my TV like, oh, it's gone in. And then obviously, I was celebrating. But do you know what's really funny? I was watching the game with my mum this afternoon up at my mum and dad's house, and my mum, she loves Newcastle, obviously, because she was born there. But she was when Harvey Barnes came on. She was like, "I'm not really sure I quite like Harvey Barnes. I'm not too sure about him." And I was like, "Okay." And then he scored, and she went, "I really like Harvey Barnes, And I was absolutely howling. She went, "I've always really liked him." And I was just like howling. And I said, "Mum, I think it's a case of, we're struggling to have Anthony Gordon and Harvey Barnes, like we've said. Yes, they can play together, but they both play in the same position." So it's one of them. I said it's a really hard one to, it's like the midfield. We struggle with all three of them on at the same time. So it was an absolutely great second half, a great 3 goals. I don't really know much more to say because I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it was just an absolute dominant performance from Newcastle, to be honest. And Jolin was absolutely monstrous today. That's how I'm going to describe him, and that's how I'm going to leave it.
Man of the match for me, I'll be honest. Do you guys know who got the man of the match? Because I'm not going to lie.
It was Big Joe.
I think it was him, yeah.
Was it? Rightly so.
Yeah.
Sorry. I had to go and do like mammy things and be a parent and stuff after the final whistle went. So
imagine having to be a parent.
Imagine you bring a child into this world and then you've actually got to look after it. It's weird.
Fantastic.
But rightly so. Yeah, I'll be honest. And going back very quickly, I think before we're finished to Harvey, because there's a lot of talk about him potentially leaving or maybe wanting out. Again, obviously you take everything with a pinch of salt because it's social media and all this sort of stuff stirring it up, or the actual media who are just as bad. But to me, you've got to think about, why can't we keep players like that? Because if we truly are building for the future and we are building a squad and we're supposed to be building to be the best of the best according to our owners. Yeah, that's what they always talked about. If we're going to be the best of the best, look at the likes of City, who have a first 11 and a second 11. Chelsea pretty much have that as well. Now, I'll go back to City because they are better than Chelsea in general. But if they can have very, very great, in fact, quality backup players. We need to have that. We can't just purely keep having an insanely great 11, which I think we are absolutely building at the minute, but then not have the quality off the bench. It absolutely defeats the object, because as our players will naturally tire on the game, or God forbid get injured, like we had a Mayor with, obviously, recently. We need that backup. So I just don't get the fact that people are like, oh, well, Barnes won't stay. But maybe he needs to. Maybe do people not want to be part of this? Do people not want to be part of the massive squad? Because they'd certainly go to Forest, not Forest, we're playing Forest. They'd certainly go to City, and sit on their bench. Why can't you sit on our bench and build for our future instead of sitting on someone else's bench? You know what I mean? Like,
I completely agree. I completely understand where you're coming from. I think this is just the modern day football that we live in, and I can't really describe it as players and whoever, are attracted to teams with money, and they are attracted to teams with silverware. And that is, I think, is just the modern day, maybe not even the modern day football. I mean, I guess this would have happened in the past as well. And and sometimes loyalty isn't a thing to players anymore. But I think we are getting there. I think we're 100% getting there, and I can't see Barnes leaving, I don't think. But you're right. What if teams like Chelsea can have 6 different starting 11s, and City can have an A, B, and a C team? Why can't Newcastle? But we're definitely going to get there, because, like you say, we're building a project where it's a work in progress. It's not something that can change overnight, but you can definitely see the change. And once Eddie Howe has the correct, what's the word I'm looking for? Support, I guess, during transfer windows. Because let's face it, he didn't have the correct support this summer. Once he has that, we are going to have a second starting 11, and then we are going to start seeing us progress and further into different competitions and things like that. So I think it genuinely is just a case of waiting, being patient. And I completely agree with you. So I think that's all it is.
I would expect so. Nick, before we finish, Mike, have you got anything else to say on that subject, or?
Just one thing from me. I think it's down to sort of 2 things. First, obviously, reputation, which obviously comes from money and silverware and stuff like that, as Nick said. But I think teams look at Man City and they go, right, I'm 1 injury away from potentially, playing half a season and then maybe a Champions League final. I think coming to Newcastle, if you're a £40 million player, you're expecting to start, and then if you're on the bench, you're thinking, well, maybe I'm starting a League Cup quarter-final or something like that. We're not associated with winning trophies or getting there yet, which is unfortunate. And then I think the second part of it is just a case of, as you say, we're not there yet. And I think it's going to be it's definitely going to be a few years before we get there. Because you look at the quality on our bench, there's still the Miguel Almirons, etc., and that's nothing against Almiron. But there's a reason he was signed under Steve Bruce and didn't score for a very long time. So I think people look at that and go, oh, hang on, are we looking at Tonali as the same quality as Miguel Almiron and stuff like that? And I think it's just one of those where people are gonna sort of comment, and PSR isn't going to help anything. If we need to make 60 million, we're not going to make it from Almiron. Richie's gone now. Jamal Lascelles and that Greek lad we've signed from Forest for 20 million. It is going to unfortunately be probably a Harvey Barnes or a Joe Willock that go. But
unfortunately,
Nick's right. It's just modern football.
Yeah. Oh, no. I know why. It's just a frustration, because at some point there has to be a point where people just start staying, if you know what I mean, to help that build. And for me, I'm not saying Barnes wants to leave, by the way, because it's not him coming out and saying this. It is purely
100%.
social media and the media. And as I say, I really sometimes don't even know which one's worse. I used to think social media was, but I'll tell you what, the media are evil, man. They can be anyway. So, on that note, it's been an absolute wonderful pod. It really has. I've absolutely loved just talking pure happiness, and definitely an added bonus of doing one right after a win, isn't it? But it's been lovely to see you guys. I'll no doubt see you multiple times during the week. So sayonara for now. See you soon.
See you later.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.